All right, folks, it's day 9. I'm so committed, and I am driving, so forgive me if I don't look at you. It is safe for me to be doing this. I feel completely hands on the wheel. It's probably safer for me to be this way. So, I am Enchantress Shane, owner and founder of the Awkward Enchanted Coven. I will not be responding to your comments or your anythings because obviously I am on the road. But I'm committed to this 40-day challenge, and let's talk freedom. But there's no way to talk about freedom without talking about bodacious boundaries. Like boundaries to really just set yourself up for success. And I know that so many people, including myself, boundaries wasn't something we grew up with. All right, I'm gonna not be seeing me well, but you will. So I didn't even know boundaries was a thing, right? And boundaries with different people and different experiences. And if you're just watching the first 5 minutes of this, what I want you to know about boundaries are, they are always pretty much able to be changed. So take that with you. Take that goodie with you when it comes time to remember that you think you're stuck in something, that you're never stuck in something, right? And part of enchanted living and breaking through to have more freedom is the freedom to change your motherfucking mind. We're at a red light, so I'll look at you when I'm at a red light. Welcome everyone for joining. So tonight is the kickoff for Get Your Sexy Back. And, at first, I do seasonal challenges, right? Once a season, I do a challenge. I did one in the summer, and here we are in the fall. And tonight is the kickoff party for Get Your Sexy Back. And it's a fuck your fears challenge because so many people outlaw themselves. I'm too fat, I'm too old, I'm too skinny, nobody wants me. And they've cleared themselves as being unlovable. And this doesn't even mean you're single. Like, you could be in a marriage and then feel like, oh, I look so different than I did when we got married, and have no intimacy. So if that describes you and you feel left out of the picture, or maybe you just go and get your nails done and your hair, but the rest of you feels dull, null, and void. If you're a woman, come into the Awkward Enchanted Coven. That's where you'll get immediate attention in this 5-day challenge. But if you're a man and you're interested in this work as well, you can sign up at enchantedembodiment.com. So today, and you'll get the videos to you'll get the challenges, not the videos, you'll get the challenges to your box, your email box. So I first learned about boundaries, I just knew that some belief system with me was all about make your boyfriend happy. So heads up, we might be talking some intimacy, physical intimacy stuff. And it was never taught to me outright, like just please your man. But somewhere along the lines, I picked that up. So whether it was just in my house or movies, a lot of it was 80s movies where like there were pretty girls and there were ugly girls and there were like all kinds of ways that you weren't good enough, right? So maybe you were a geek. So I grew up in the 80s, and maybe you were a nerd and nobody wanted to be with you, or maybe you weren't part of the cool kids, so you had to suffer. So it's through all of that I found out, like, I'm a people pleaser, and I try to make people really happy, and I try to just go with the flow, because what I learned very early on was don't make waves. Sugar and spice and everything nice. That's what little girls are made of. And subliminally, we teach our young girls that that's the truth. Shh, don't say that out loud. Go hug your cousin. Give grandma and grandpa a kiss. Like when you're a little kid and you're forced to do something against your will, and it looks like love. As a kid, you actually learn, don't say no. If somebody says something and they love you, whatever they say to do, you should go do it. And this is the case when it comes to sexual abuse and sexual harassment and sexual assault. A lot of times, not all, but a lot of times, people who are sexually assaulted or assaulted at all have had some experience as a child that created the open channel, that created the like, I can't say no to this, or maybe it's my fault I asked for this, because of the blueprint that we've had as children. So what I want to say about boundaries, and I think Janelle, I forgot how to say her name right now, Janelle Martinez wrote, the stronger your yeses are yeses, the stronger your no's will be no's. And this can be boundaries around sexual intimacy. This could be boundaries around saying yes to helping people when they ask you, and let's say you say yes too much. This can be around anything in regards to your time, your money, or what energy you're spending your fucks on. So tonight we start this challenge in the Awkward Enchanted Coven, and it's all about, staying graceful. Like, I am not ever going to be fighting for what I believe in. Because once you enter a fighting space, you've already lost. Because fighting means you want to make somebody else wrong. And in the boundaries that I believe in, and the boundaries that I teach all my clients, and the boundaries I facilitate, it's about win-win. Like, no one has to be wrong. And oh man, you idiot. And so much about what we do in dating or intimate relating is all about, when it's not good anymore, people are just talking about what the other person did wrong. And even in some very stale marriages, that's what's going on. So let's talk about boundaries. Now, I can't see who's signing on and all that. Ooh, I see nice trunk put out. But now I can because I'm at a red light. Hey, Faye, we missed you today. So creating boundaries around family is probably the hardest. And if anyone, I'll look at it later, but if anyone has trouble saying no to go to family events, or you feel like you have to lie and say like, oh, I have a stomach ache, or this one and that one can't do something, so we can't show up. Or maybe even worse, you go to the events that you don't want to go to, and you have a hard time leaving. So there's so many boundaries and different kinds of boundaries with different people. But today, mostly, I want to talk about relational boundaries between opposite sex. And everyone's joining in on this conversation. I invite you. So if you've been a woman in this lifetime and you've ever felt like you're in a partnership, but a romantic partnership, but by accident you've kind of become your partner's mother. Or maybe it's the opposite way around. Like, you're a man watching this and you all of a sudden have become like the father, protector, problem solver. That is not intimacy. That is mommy and daddy wounding issues. And that's something that I see so many women, a lot of them have been friends that have been in relationships, and they're like, oh my God, this was a while ago. I was on a date. Actually, it was pretty recent. I was on a friend's date, but there was a couple there. It was about 6 of us. And my friend started cutting her fiance's meat. I was like, oh my God, that is ridiculous. Or just like, you're acting like your mother with your man. Like, I get mortified. I can't even look. I actually turn my head. So when you and your partner have become more like besties. Now, I'm not saying you can't be best friends and homies and you love each other and you have fun and you have similar interests, but it's the part of you that becomes the over caregiver That's kind of what this challenge is about. It's about coming back to your own sexy self, no matter what age, what shape, what size you are. We have a lot of power as women to really turn any frumpy relationship back around into something that's golden. And if you're single, if you want to attract somebody, this is exactly the challenge for you. And I'm talking about it a lot because it's kicked off tonight. And then the first challenge is out tomorrow, 4 p.m. So when it's time to set boundaries, you might get triggered or charged, or you might start to feel nervous like you're doing something wrong. And that's the perfect opportunity to go ahead and set a boundary anyway. And I'm a really huge fan of nonviolent communication, which really has nothing to do with physical violence, but it has to do with speaking with love, getting your point across, and not feeling bad that you're putting yourself first. That's what I take out of it the most. Because a lot of times when we say no to people, we make ourselves like, it looks like I don't care. It looks like I don't love this person, or I'm not doing enough. Or it's going to be over. Like if you say no in a romantic partnership, you think that like, oh my God, when I say no, my partner's going to leave me. Now these are extreme cases, of course, but I do believe I've seen a lot of my clients. So it's not even like I'm asking you to say yes or no to these things, but really come back into your mind of like, yeah, there has been moments where I've been physically intimate with somebody and I was just kind of over it, but I just figured like, let's just finish. So it's that kind of stuff, right? So that's like some stuff. Or like, you're going on a date. Let's say it's the second date. So you really are excited, but you start to not feel well. And then you don't want to cancel because they think you don't like them. But what I love to teach, and any of my goddesses that are in my groups here know, just to be transparent. Now I say just, but to be transparent means to add the statements that you're working on in your head. Like, I'm having a really hard time canceling tonight. I don't feel well, but I've been looking forward to this all week long. But unfortunately, I have to cancel. But let's reschedule right now so I have something else to look forward to. So it's like you're finding your boundary. And again, you could be in a marriage for 20 years, or you could be on a second date, or you could be just totally single. It's really important to remember that you're human. Minds get changed, and it's okay to change your mind. And it's okay to be embarrassed that you're changing your mind and to share, like, I feel really stupid. I made a mistake. I overbooked myself, and you're really important. And this other thing that's happening, I can't do any other day. So it's like you're articulating your transparency. You're articulating the rawness that makes you feel stupid or embarrassed or like a loser or not cool. Let me know if you're picking up what I'm putting down here. Just like throw me up a little heart. And I see some of my goddesses here have been working with me and know that boundaries is something that is so important to the core of who we are. Because let's say you believe a lot in integrity and you want to do things that you feel really good about. And Tanya was talking about this. Tanya Rivers Moore was talking about this. What you're doing is an integrity, right? Let's paint a picture. So let's say you're having a second date with someone. Now, everyone knows, or I know, if you invite the opposite sex over for a second date in your house, it's slightly suggestive, right? There's an air of like, we're going to be physically intimate. Let's say second or third date, or whatever date. There's like an air of it. So typically what most people do is they just ignore that awkwardness and try to be normal, try to be regular. Except it's a really big deal, right? So I remember the first time I invited a boyfriend. He was a boyfriend at the time, and I invited him over for Valentine's dinner. So now there was like this, like an air of, there's expectations here. And even if we're both on board, it's kind of quirky. And I put on this pink negligee, like sexy thing. And I put a dress over it. And I remember thinking, and it was a pretty new relationship. It was like 2 months in. And it was the first time that he had come over, that I like invited him for the weekend. And I remember thinking like, wait, there's going to be some awkward shit here where like, let's say it's after dinner, and then what? I'm just going to like take this shit off and be in this. And so like navigating through those very tiny moments so that there still is connection. Right? Like, of course you could just ignore the awkward moments, but imagine that those awkward moments could be moments where you're like, oh my God, I feel like I'm 12 years old again. And then there's a sweetness that happens there. So I also want to talk to the people who are in, let's say, marriages where they feel completely disconnected sexually, or even young marriages, or even young relationships where it's just about scheduling, showing up, family parties, expectations. So, and maybe this will feel pretty brave to share, but I really see how it's all in the woman's hands. Like, men really are way simpler creatures when it comes to physical desires. And we have so much stuff that goes on. Now, not to say that men don't also have stuff that goes on, but the women I work with, I could see where they are dating and they're creating a mess. And I have one client, when we met, she was in a real fucking mess, shit relationship. She broke up with the guy, thank God. It was really hard to be with her, in a way where she was fighting for her own limitations. So I stayed with it. I stayed with her. I listened. I gave her love and attention how she needed it. The second two relationships, I could see how she was growing. They were reflecting back who she was. And it was such a cool thing. And now she's in this long-ass term relationship with a beautiful man that really rises to the occasion. And, you know, she was one of my private clients, so she would send me texts like, he said this, how do I relate to it? Blessings, brother. I'm sorry, I don't have anything. You know, like just different ways to navigate around avoiding fighting, right? Because again, when there's fighting in relationships, or there's too much explaining or too many conversations around intimacy because there is none, it just makes it worse, to be honest. And so the idea that as women, you know, we have the power to give birth. We have pussy power. There's 8,000 nerve endings in our pussy. Like, that's a fucking boat ton. And there are the same exact, like whatever is in our brain, there's another brain in our pussy. Swear. And many thousands of years ago, in so many different cultures, in Egyptian cultures, in Chinese cultures, in Hindu cultures, all the statues, they had women showing their pussy. And so many times before men would go off to battle, I don't have all the ancient stories memorized, but when men would go off to battle, women would flash their pussy before they went off, just to give them extra power. And men would come and bow down to the pussy. And I believe that's, you know, we can do that in various amount of ways, but for women to really own that no matter how old you are, and if pussy is a new word for you, you might be getting some kind of like visceral reaction. Don't. Get in the mirror and see what's going on. But also start to understand that your pussy is as beautiful as your face is. There's no two alike in the entire world. And so, you know, for men listening to this, to really honor more than you already are, because if you're watching me, I suppose that you already treat women like goddesses, but we can all get better at it. You know, we can all get to places where we honor women so much that we can share the truth. And women, for so long, we have hung men's heads on our walls, like this motherfucker, that motherfucker, all men are dogs. It's actually not true at all. We're all really beautiful human beings that all want the same thing, which is love. So if we can create boundaries coming from a place of love, you know, one of my mentors said to me, I think what you're really worried about around men is really actually very innocent. So I translated that into my life, and I really see how, the very little girl in me just wants to be liked and not dumped and not rejected. And also, it's scary for me as a 42-year-old woman, I find, to open my heart fully. Because, I don't want to feel pain. And my last love affair, which was so fucking romantic and amazing, was ended. And it was so fucking painful. And I remember making a silent agreement with myself, I'm not fucking doing that again. That sucks. So, whatever your word is, yoni, whatever your word is, it's really about coming back to yourself and treating yourself with the highest regard so that everybody else does too. Right? So you can rationalize why you're not a sexual being. You can rationalize why you're not dating. Maybe you gave up on yourself. Well, let me take a stand for all of the people here. But mostly right now, I'm focusing on women. If you're a man and you're interested in this kind of work, you can let me know. But right now, just women who've given up on themselves sexually. I have a client, she's 75, and she's like, she's really funny. She should do stand-up comedy. And she's like, what do the balls smell like on men my age? I was like, you are so funny. Listen, we all have hang-ups. We're all human. We all fart. It's not the most fun thing to do on your dates. But how can we find more connection in the awkward moments when we can't even set boundaries for ourselves? So it starts with a very beginning practice, and some of the I'm going to give you the challenges that start tomorrow night, and we're going to be able to do them live in the moment for the most part. But I ask you, if you're not doing the challenge, which of course you could at this point, to really come back to where do you feel taken advantage of, or where do you put yourself as not as important? Okay, now I'm at a red light for a while. Oh my goodness, so many amazing people are here. Okay. Yay, goddesses are here. So, yeah, let me know what you're getting from me so far. If you just tuned in and you never saw me, I'm Enchantress Shane, and I'm curious, of everything that I've said, right? Because today I don't have my notes in front of me, but I'm really passionate about boundaries because it's so much fun. It's much more fun to be with someone who has very clear directives and very clear opinions than it is to be with someone who's wishy-washy, I don't really know, I'll do whatever you want, that's fine, no problem, I'll just go with the flow. It's not fun. So yeah, what are you getting from this? I'd love to share and hear something that you're getting. Let's see, I'm back at a red light. Hi friends. All right. So, yeah, that feels complete for right now, but I'd really love to know, and if we start moving again, sorry brother, I don't have any money right now to offer through the window. I want to be careful with my words. So, yeah, I think I'm going to end right there on boundaries, but I'd love any story. And I could very easily, I just came from a beautiful family party. I could easily talk about family and boundaries, but that's like a big ass armpit hole. So let's stick with the romantic partnership, boundaries. And if you watched on Relational Embodied Intimacy a couple of weeks ago, I had on Om Rupani, who teaches DS play, like domination and submission play. And it's in the movies, it's shown as all wrong, basically. But the way I really enjoy it is everybody's desires, everybody's boundaries get honored. And that's so powerful and also so pleasurable. Imagine every moment that you got to take a breath and take for yourself a moment to think what do I really want right now? Does that make anybody feel good? What do I really want right now? I remember back when I was young, I remember the first I don't know which story to tell. I have so many. But the first client I worked with, and at the same time, it was a while ago, and she was doing online dating. And, you know, I help people with confidence. So I was really curious, like, okay, this is cool. So we were online dating, and in the words that she was using, I helped her create a beautiful profile, and I helped her respond and initiate conversations with men where she felt she stayed in her power. Because of how we were trained as women to be sugar and spice and everything nice, that's what little girls are made of, or Barbies, or porn, where you just like act out a porn and there's no such thing as intimacy. It's just like, oh, that was good sex, but it's like you weren't even making eye contact, that kind of thing. So when you're trained that way, even the way you speak, or the way you pick online dates, or the way you have relationships shows your beliefs. So this girl, the client that I was working with, was really young, and she had all this pressure from her mother to get married and have babies. So on her dates, she would talk about marriage and children, which I thought was okay. But basically what she found was every person she met, she was screening them to see if they were the one. Talk about pressure. Like, that's intense. And I've had some really beautiful friends who've been on their first dates and said, like, I'm going to marry you. But the way they say it is from this innocent, loving place versus like inquisitive and like poking and pushing. And I think that's the problem with dating. Like, I'm a single woman and I'm having so much fun with men's... Hi, there's a handsome man. Whoa, that was intense. Wow. So things like that, they fuel me up. Like, you know, getting high levels of attention, like high caliber attention. And that's what I love so much. And that's what I teach my women. And that's what this, you know, upcoming program is about. It's like how to train each other. So men and women, you know, who are dating, we're actually training each other in a way that's like, here's what I like, right? Because it happens anyway. It's like, oh, you like your mashed potatoes like that? Yes. And I like to be touched like this. But when it's an intimate situation, there's really a way that we can speak that doesn't make anybody feel bad. It just actually feels like pleasure. How many men watching this really, really want to be or know a woman that knows what she likes sexually, that isn't just like sort of going off into a faraway land and you're with her, like, where did you go? What happened? You know, like you can tell that she sort of drifted away. And I guess this can be reversed too, but I have most experience working with women in this field of initiating intimacy. And it, again, doesn't need to be physical, but it could be something else that leads to physical. And it can be really playful. So it's not just like, okay, when we're intimate physically, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and like somebody in that duo is working really hard, and there's moments of like non-pleasure. And to me, that's the kind of pleasure that lasts for like 4 hours together, instead of like, all right, I mean, you know, it's all relative. Like, it's nice to have other things too, but to live in a way that's like deeply connected, so that even when you're not physically intimate, there's some part of connection that happens even when you're at the supermarket, or, you know, you're doing some mundane task, that you're still connected, right? So how to get your sexy back. And I really challenge the women who are in intimate-less, disconnected partnerships. Like, you show up, do this challenge, and let's see what the fuck happens. I truly believe in my work this much. So if you're a goddess, if you're a woman, if you don't relate to goddess yet, if the word pussy really tweaks you and you don't like it, I might not be the girl for you. So you can just listen and move on. Or you can join us in the Awkward Enchanted Coven, and the kickoff party's tonight at 9, and then we start the challenge tomorrow. So yeah, I'd love to know. All right, I'm at another red light. Oh, look. Yay, Mary Beth. Okay. Yeses are movable. No's are movable. They mean the same thing. Yeah, it's really beautiful how good it can feel when your yes is honored or when your no is honored and it's agreed on beforehand so that your boundaries are actually sexy, right? And then the energy is based on respect. So many women, even potential clients who say, who don't work with me in the moment, what they're looking for in their partnerships is to be respected. But how can you be respected when you don't respect yourself, right? So if you've never looked in the mirror at your naked body, then how can you expect someone else to honor your body, right? So it's getting familiar with your parts, getting familiar with your body so that from moment to moment, you can really have as much pleasure as you're willing to welcome in. Like, that's fucking exciting stuff. So if you're just joining, welcome. I'm not usually in the car, but, making it all happen. I'm a busy goddess on the go, as my friend Leora Edut says. So, yeah, I'd love to know what anybody thinks about this. I won't be reading comments right now, obviously, but I will be reading them after I park and get out back to the magical land of Rockaway. It's a rare one. I left. And especially to my creative goddesses out there, we're so sensitive. We are so sensitive that imagine how sensitive we are in life. And then we get into sexual or sensual intimacies and we just sort of go on porn mode or something. And it doesn't have to be porn, but we go on just like operational mode instead of really deeply feeling. And so if another thing that you want to take away from this, and you can do this evening, whether you join us in the challenge or not, is to just slow the fuck down. Like when you're eating, to take your piece of whatever you're eating and let it into your senses, right? There's moments of sensuality all the time, and they're not just for a man or for a woman. They're for your own pleasure. And when you start to program your system, your internal system like that, then your body doesn't feel the pressure of having to perform when it is a romantic, intimate situation. So that's really the key element here, is how to treat yourself with such high regard, with so much respect and love, that you treasure yourself, that's the vibration of how you operate, right? And then when somebody's in your life, it's just second nature of how you operate. It's not like, oh, now I'm with a man, I have to go work out and I have to pop, and or maybe you don't do anything, and maybe that's not working either. So this is just, I'm giving out to a very big audience here, but really I am talking directly to women who are wanting more, and it doesn't even need to be with a man or a woman, but to be more in her pleasure, to live more in her pleasure, so that it's not about oh, Prince Charming's gonna rescue me, but it's I'm amazing no matter fucking what. And I can walk down the street and have such a ball, and it doesn't even matter if anybody's looking at me. I mean, that's the kind of enchanted living that I'm a really big fan of, where I just get to have a good old time by myself. And honky-dory, if somebody joins me on that trip, then it's even more fun. But I'm calling all my codependent women, all my women who wanted some kind of fairy tale that never got it, that are still in hunt and gather mode when they're going out. Hey, Cindy, nice to have you here. It's that kind of shit that really gives us a hard time when it comes to romantic relating. All right, everyone. So I'm gonna sign off right now. But if you're watching on the replay, I'm glad you joined. I'm glad everybody. Thank you for your patience while I'm driving here to be sharing this information. Let me know where you have trouble with boundaries. If it's saying yes or saying no. Usually it's one or the other. I really look forward to your comments. So when you're finished watching, or now, write in your comments, what are you taking away from everything I've shared? And where are your challenges. Saying yes too much, or saying no too much, or saying no not enough, or not saying yes enough because you don't think you could receive. And tonight, I will see all of you in the Awkward Enchanted Coven for my goddesses. And this Thursday I have a very special guest coming in to talk about intimacy and give you some tips and tricks. His name is Justin Ritchie in the Relational Embodied Intimacy group. And then just in case you want to know, the paid program, Fuck Your Fears, Get Your Sexy Back, starts November 6th. So if you're interested in that right away, there's massive early bird bonuses right now. Send me a private message. And the next in-person burlesque class is November 17th in New York City. And the 1-hour class in Rockaway is November 1st. All right, that's all for now, folks. Have a blessed evening. Light ahead. Happy Sunday. Thank you all the gods and goddesses and angels for joining me in this broadcast. Oh, Hillary, watch this. You're going to love it. Okay, bye.